Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about how to create an automatic essay generator using Python 3.7. Now before I begin the video, I just want to say everything I show you in this tutorial is not intended for harmful purposes. I'm in no way promoting students to plagiarize and use what I'm about to show you to start plagiarizing essays. But I just thought it was a fun way to learn about web scraping in general and how to do so with Python 3.7. So before we continue to the tutorial, let's begin by talking about what exactly is web scraping for those who don't really know what it is. So to put it simply, web scraping is a tool or methodology of dynamically acquiring content from web pages. So basically, to give you an example, sometimes we want to use external or third-party information to achieve what we want to achieve. Obviously, we don't have all the data in the world stored on our computer, so we want to use external resources to fetch data. Ideally, we want to use APIs or application programming interfaces, to do this, but not every data source, every website, every company has an API. So we can't utilize and rely solely on APIs all the time. And that's where web scraping comes into place, where we can run through different websites or different links and browse through the HTML content of the website and basically scrape or fetch whatever we please, whether that's the raw text on the website or whether it's the attached documents PDF, for example, that's on the website and download it to use it, or basically any other information. We can also use web scraping to sort of automate what humans can do on the browser. So not only can we fetch content, we can also basically punch in content to search bars, for example, push buttons and whatnot. So it's a very useful technology when you don't have an API to work with, but you still want to dynamically access the contents of a website. Um, I guess you could manually go and copy paste, whatever you want from the browser and use that. But if you want to fetch, thousands of websites, for example, then it becomes very tiresome to do so by hand. And that's why you would want to use and utilize Python to do that task for you and basically automate whatever you want to do manually and to save you time. So without further ado, let's go to our code editor and start writing some code. Now today we're going to be using a package called Selenium. I've already went ahead and installed this as well as the Firefox WebDriver and set everything up. So we just need to begin to code for this project. But if you guys want to know how to set up and install the Selenium package for Python, please leave a comment in the comment section below and I'll show you guys maybe in another video how to do that as well. It's very simple, so you guys can also search for how to do this online as well. So to begin using the Selenium package, what we're going to first want to do is import the WebDriver module from the Selenium package. And we can do this by doing from Selenium import WebDriver. And to use WebDriver, basically we just need to initialize the Firefox WebDriver. And to do this, we can do driver equals, meaning we're going to save it into a variable called driver and call webdriver.firefox initialize this. Another extra step that we could do is maximize our driver. And this is just an extra step that I do to show you guys, since just for display purposes, it's much nicer to have a maximized window. You guys don't necessarily have to do this step, because what it's basically doing is once we automate the web browser. In this case, the Firefox web browser. As soon as it pops up, usually it might be in a minimized window or whatever. But since I'm showing you guys how to do this, that would be much more visually appealing if I maximize the window. Nonetheless, you guys can skip this entirely. In fact, later on in the video, I'll show you guys how to prevent the browser from popping up each time, because if you're running a very large process, for example, you're crawling through thousands of web pages, you're gonna be annoyed that your web browser keeps popping up and up. So to have it run in the background, I'll show you guys later on in the video how to turn this feature off. So now that we have our Firefox WebDriver initialized, what we're going to want to do is go to the specific website we want to crawl or scrape from. And in this case, since we're creating a automatic essay generator, I thought it would be a good idea to scrape the Wikipedia website because it has a lot of information that's useful for essays. So to do so, what we can do is run driver.get and then pass in any URL we'd like to go to. So for Wikipedia, it is https://n.wikipedia.org. If we save this and try to run it, we should see the Firefox web browser open up and go to the website Wikipedia. Awesome. Now let's try to search for something to see what the URL link looks like, because right now is the home page of Wikipedia and we don't necessarily want to scrape from this, but actually specific articles we do find on Wikipedia. For example, we can search Albert Einstein. And here we see that we have a Wikipedia page dedicated to Albert Einstein. And instead of crawling the homepage, which we saw a few seconds ago, we would want to crawl whatever we're searching for. And in this case, I searched for Albert Einstein. So essentially, we're going to be crawling all of this to basically plagiarize our essay. Now, if we take a look at the website link, we can see here that we have a few additions to the website. Initially, we just typed up until https://en.wikipedia.org. But once we have a search query, the URL, there was an amendment to the URL with the keywords wiki/Albert Einstein. So we could tell initially that whatever we search for comes at the end of the URL. So we can test this out by, for example, pretend we search for cryptocurrency. So once we hit enter on this, we should expect to see a Wikipedia page dedicated specifically to cryptocurrency. Awesome. So our theory proves right. So now we can begin by basically adding on any search query that we'd like and directly go to that web page without having to automate searching through the home page, which is very much possible, but it would just save us a lot of time if we can directly go to the web page, or the Wikipedia page link directly. So if we go back and edit our search link, we notice that wiki, and then anything basically that comes here is our search query. So what we're going to want to do for now is leave this blank actually, and have our app basically input in here whatever we search for in our command line interface. So we're going to leave this blank, and let's make this an F string so that we can put any variable here. For now, we're going to do, we're going to call this search string, and then just leave it as none for now. But basically, essentially, what we're going to want to do is input any search string that the user inputs here and pass it into this web link so that it can open up. So before we define the user input for a search string, I just want to briefly look at what exactly happens if we search for something which a Wikipedia page doesn't have a search link for. So to go back to our browser, and let's type for something completely gibberish to see what comes up if Wikipedia doesn't have a search page for this. And we can see that there are a few things going on here. One that I noticed right off the bat is this keyword right here, which states Wikipedia does not have an article with this exact name. Now, I guess there are other sort of key defining factors of this page, but I think this is something useful that we could use to make our app better. Specifically, what we can do is once later on in the video we've crawled the page after we've entered the link, we can search for keywords, in this case this highlighted keyword which I'm showing on the screen, to say if this is inside whatever we crawled, then we have to ask the user for another input, or just blatantly say, sorry, this website or this search key which you've searched for does not have a Wikipedia page, so we were not able to generate the essay for you. So what we're going to want to do is just copy paste this and go back to our editor. Go back to our editor and just leave it to the side for now as a string, because we're going to be using it later on for if-else statement. Now going back to our search string, we can begin to define the user input. And to do that, we can do input and assign a prompt here, which basically is just, in our case, a question of what would you like to generate an essay for ? And I always like to leave a new line at the end just to make it more visually appealing. So before we could actually use the search string for the user input, we actually need to format it, because I don't know if you guys remember, but when we searched for Albert Einstein, although we searched for Albert space Einstein as a normal human being would do, in the URL here, it was actually Albert _ Einstein. So whenever the user searches something, Wikipedia actually formats it and actually replaces all the spaces into underscores and then punches it into the URL. So let's do that. And let's call this formatted search string. Let's just leave it S because it's getting longer. And we're going to do search string dot replace. Basically, as I just said, we're going to be replacing all the spaces with an underscore. Now basically we have everything, or this search string formatted for us to punch in directly into the URL. So we can replace the search string with the formatted search string which we've made, and it should basically go to any Wikipedia page which we've searched for. So now that we're able to access any Wikipedia page that the user searches, what we're going to want to do now is to basically just scrape all the relevant information about our search and basically fetch it so that we can output it into a text file in an essay format. Now to do this, let's quickly go back to the Wikipedia page to look at what content we actually want to fetch. So if we search Albert Einstein as an example once again, And what we can do is inspect this web page by right-clicking on the page and going to inspect element. And we can see here that we don't really care about what's on the left here. We don't necessarily want this information and the pictures on the right. We basically just want this block of text about Albert Einstein. And when we highlight this, we can see, we can see that it is an HTML p tag or a paragraph tag. So when we go back to our code, what we're going to want to do is basically just fetch everything inside this body content. Inside this body content, and just look and fetch only the p tags. So let's go back to our code and do this. So to access the body, what we can do is go to driver dot find element by ID. And basically what this does is, if you guys are familiar with HTML, we can have, classes and IDs for tags. IDs are something that's very unique compared to classes, which are reusable. So it's a very easy way to pinpoint the exact, location in the HTML which you're looking for. First, we're going to be zooming into the body of the block of text, as you guys saw a few seconds ago. And if you guys remember, the ID for that body of text was actually called body content. So we can search for this ID. And basically what we've managed to do is filter through and only fetch the body content, that big block of text, which includes all the paragraph tags, which is called body content. And from there, what we're going to want to do is dive deeper and just fetch the p tags which we saw. And to do that, what we're going to do is basically just call this p tags, because that's what they are, just a list of HTML paragraph tags. And from the body, we can do find, and this time we're going to do elements in plural, because we're going to be searching through all the paragraphs in that body content block of text. So we're going to do find elements by, instead of ID, we're going to do by tag name. And the tag, as you guys remember, is just a simple p or paragraph tag. So now that we're basically able to scrape and fetch all the paragraph tags, or basically all the information that we need from the Wikipedia page, we can actually begin to output it in an essay format, or whatever looks like an essay, into a simple text file. I guess you could output it to a Word document or whatever, but just for our purposes, we're just going to be outputting it to a text file. To do that, we can just define an output file here and give it write access. So open, we're going to do an F string, and we can parse it, the formatted search string, and call it essay.txt. And we're gonna give it write access. Once we have the output file, we can loop over all the p tags and give it the necessary indentations and spaces as a normal essay, and then write to the output file which we've just defined. So to do this, we can just create a for loop. So for the paragraph tag in p tags, which is from this line, just the list of paragraph tags which we've fetched, we can write to the output file the p tag. But just to make this paragraph tag look nicer and more unified and aligned with the standards of a normal essay, we can modify it a bit by including an F string here. Sorry. And usually when I write my essays, I like to have two new lines at the end of each paragraph, and the beginning of each paragraph indented. So we can add a tab here. So now we actually managed to, one, scrape the contents of whatever we searched for, and two, output it into the specific file we want, and actually format it into a nice essay format. Before we continue though, I just want to go back to this idea of a headless web scraper. As I mentioned before, each time we run this now, we're going to see a Firefox web browser pop up. But if you guys want to let this run on the background, which I usually do, I just pass in the headless argument so that even if you guys run this, it's still doing the same thing, but you won't see the Firefox web browser or whatever web browser you're using pop up on the screen. So to do that, what we can do actually is define some options. Options. And to do that, we can do WebDriver.Firefox options. And we can add arguments to this options variable. And in our case, we're interested in creating a headless web scraper, so we can pass in the headless option and pass the options into the options parameter. Now each time we run this, we won't see any browser pop up, but it will run and do its job in the background without actually having to bother us. So we can actually even just delete this maximize window, since there won't be any windows popping up. One last thing we need to do is actually take into account cases where the user inputted something completely gibberish and Wikipedia actually couldn't or failed to find the Wikipedia page for it. So when we go back to the bottom here, we save this string, as you guys may or may not remember earlier in the video, because this is something that's contained in the body of the text of the Wikipedia page when the search string is completely gibberish and when Wikipedia fails to find a page for it. So what we can do is put a simple if-else statement to say if, there was a web page, or if there was no web page for whatever we search for, just print out something in the console saying, sorry, there was nothing we could find. Please retype your search keyword. And else, if we did find something, basically just continue with what we just did. So what we can do is define an if statement saying if this sentence is in the driver.page source, which is basically just the source code of the HTML, just raw HTML of the web page we're looking for. So we're saying if this block of text is inside the web page, then just print out some nice message saying, okay, sorry, we couldn't find a Wikipedia page for your search. And else we can continue with whatever we did here. So we can continue with going through and searching the body as well as the p tags, and then for each of the p tags which we located, output it into the specific output file which we defined. And we can also, to make it more user friendly, print some nice message saying, search complete, essay generated in string essay dot txt exclamation mark. We can delete this note line in the end, and then finally close the output file, and basically we've finished our script. Now let's test it out by running the file. We'll see a user prompt, and let's say Albert Einstein, since that's the search we've been going for. Oops, sorry, you guys can see the print message printed multiple times. It's because we actually kept it inside the for loop. What we can do is keep it outside so it only prints once. Save this, try to run it again. Maybe this time search for cryptocurrency. Awesome. Search complete. Essay generated in cryptocurrency essay. Actually, the first one worked as well. It's just the multiple print bothered me, so I decided to run it again. But we can check both essays to see what was generated. So you guys can see here, 2 essays are generated. Let's check Albert Einstein. Oops, sorry. Actually, this outputted the class itself and not the HTML text content, which is included inside the tag. So what we can do is go back and delete these 2 essays. So we could just delete these 2 essays and go back, and actually instead of just outputting the tag class itself, we can just output the text, since that's what we're concerned with. And we can save this and try to run again. Well, actually, first let's try to run something completely gibberish to see what happens. We should see no essay created. Awesome. So we see here, sorry, we couldn't find a Wikipedia page for your search. Let's try to run something with a valid search. Let's do Albert Einstein. Awesome. Search complete. Essay generated in alberteinstein.txt. So we can go back to see. Awesome. We can see here that it's a nice essay format, nice paragraphs indented, new lines after each paragraph. Well, awesome. Thank you guys for tuning in today for this tutorial. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. Thank you very much.